future of US-Pakistan relationship, I would say, is bleak for the following reasons. This is what happened after the Soviet withdrawal from Afghanistan. When the Soviet Union withdrew, then the US imposed Pressler Amendment related to nuclear proliferation on Pakistan. The United States cut off all kind of economic ties and military ties with Pakistan. The US even refused to hand over F-16 aircraft to Pakistan. But now, Pakistan is doing something worse than what it did in the 1990s.
Namaste everybody, welcome to Citti Media. My name is Citti, your host. Today we will be discussing a lot of political developments happening in the United States that has relevance across the world. And we are joined by Professor Chintamani Mahapatra of Jawaharlal Nehru University. Namaste sir, thank you so much for joining us. Just a little introduction about him. He is currently the Pro Vice Chancellor of JNU and a Professor of American Studies at the School of International Studies of JNU. He has previously been a Fulbright and a Commonwealth Fellow. He's an author of many books and research articles for national and international publications. And he's a very, very well-known commentator on international affairs. So my first question to you will be, the US, UK, and Australia are forging a military alliance to counter China's rise in the Indo-Pacific. What can you tell us more about this, and is it coming too late?
It is not coming too late. Indo-Pacific as a concept itself is late. Rather, that concept could have started a long time ago. Now, why is this triangular understanding among the US, UK, and Australia now? It is because United Kingdom rather took some more time before it would recognize Indo-Pacific as an important strategic area. So now that Britain has sent its aircraft carrier to this region is an indication that Britain has taken note of the importance, the significance, both for geopolitics and geoeconomics of this particular region. Now, the understanding of arriving at a new kind of strategic partnership involving Australia, the United States, and the UK is because of partly economic Cold War between the United States and China going on for quite some time. And Australia and China, which are now very important trading partners, yet they have a kind of economic Cold War. The Chinese have imposed a lot of sanctions on Australia. The Australian economy has suffered because of that. And of course, the Chinese are flexing a lot of military muscle, naval muscle in South China Sea, East China Sea. So keeping that in mind, in a way, this triangular understanding is yet another additional complementary development to what we call Quad, quadrilateral security dialogue, where Australia, India, Japan, and the United States are part of it. Secondly, Australia is going to get technological support from the United States to develop a submarine, a nuclear-powered submarine. In a way, it is signaling to China that don't browbeat, don't pressurize, don't threaten the countries of the Indo-Pacific, and the United States is very much part of it to protect its allies.
Right. So in that sense, if we look at another issue that's coming up, US has been promising India support for over the horizon support, and what is its relevance, and to our viewers who are not aware of what exactly it means, can you please brief us about that?
Yeah, let me take you back to history a little bit. In September 2001, when the terrorist attack took place against the Twin Towers in New York and the Pentagon building, and one plane fell in Pennsylvania. That time, one of the first world leaders to offer complete support to the United States in a war against terrorism was India. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the prime minister, and he gave, in a way, unconditional support to the US war on terror. But at the time, in a way, that fell on deaf ears, because the Americans thought Pakistan would be more relevant. The Pakistanis know the Taliban. They have created the Taliban. They will have their home address also. So it would be important to rope in Pakistan to remove the Taliban from power in Afghanistan because they refused to surrender the Al-Qaeda leader. So that way Pakistan was roped in, and in 2003 itself, Pakistan was declared to be a non-NATO major alliance partner and all. But the US learned a very bad lesson and a very strong and harsh lesson from engaging the Pakistanis. Pakistan was playing a double role. On the one hand, taking money from the Americans and supporting and sustaining the Haqqani network and the Taliban in Afghanistan. That went on for quite some time. Now, when the Americans have withdrawn from Afghanistan, all their troops and the NATO troops are also out of Afghanistan, it is a big shock to everyone that Pakistan is yet again in the same game. It is supporting Taliban. It is even engineering what kind of government should be there in Kabul. And the Haqqani network fellow, on whose head there is a $10 million bounty, even he is the interior minister. So in a way, again, stabbing the Americans and others in the back, and the Pakistan is playing the same old game where Afghanistan can become a staging area for terrorist attack on other countries, including India. So now when the Americans have realized it, in fact, in the American Congress, not many lawmakers are saying that Pakistan has had played a dirty role in Afghanistan for 20 years, even before that. So why are we supporting Pakistan? You blacklist them. You stop supporting them, stop giving them money, rather take the help of India. India has been a good strategic partner, which helped Afghanistan in its own economic development by spending about more than $2 trillion and all that. So India should be our partner in fighting the next round of war against terror. And in that context, India can be over the horizon area where the northeast part of India can really help in deterring the terrorists in Afghanistan from launching any kind of attack on other countries, including on India. So now it is up to India to decide the terms and conditions and the details of that kind of arrangement. It is not known yet. Even Secretary of State Anthony Blinken also said he cannot make any public statement on this. It needs a kind of confidential discussion. And there is no open agreement yet or any offer of an agreement. This is the beginning of a new idea that India should protect its interest in Afghanistan, its investment in Afghanistan. India should try to see that Afghanistan does not create problem through Pakistan in Kashmir and other parts of India. For that, India has to be on board with the United States. Right. And Indo-US collaboration on counterterrorism has been going on for decades, and this is a new thing on paper at the moment.
Right. Very interesting points, so thank you for that. And even today, as we speak, I think there are news reports emerging that says Mullah Baradar is one of the 100 most influential people in the world. It's named by the Time magazine. And it's very interesting that you bring up the US and Pakistan angle, because the relations have been soured over the last 5 to 7 years as the US went on to realize how much of a bad strategic mistake it has done in placing some amount of trust in Pakistan. So keeping that in mind, and especially taking note of whatever has happened in the last 2 weeks, how do you think the future of US-Pakistan ties are going to be from this point forward?
The future of US-Pakistan relationship, I would say, is bleak for the following reasons. This is what happened after the Soviet withdrawal from Afghanistan. When the Soviet Union withdrew, then the US imposed Pressler Amendment related to nuclear proliferation on Pakistan. The United States cut off all kind of economic ties and military ties with Pakistan. The US even refused to hand over F-16 aircraft to Pakistan. But now Pakistan is doing something worse than what it did in the 1990s. That is, despite receiving billions and billions of dollars of American assistance, it was playing a double game and continuously not only supporting, but also aiding, abetting, equipping the Taliban fellows, and particularly the Haqqani network and all. Now, when the US signed a kind of deal with the Taliban that we are leaving your country, but you should not allow any kind of terrorist activities from taking root in your country. And the Taliban said, okay, yes. But Taliban, went back on their words in very many ways. One example I would give, that even after complete withdrawal of the American troops, there was a big bomb blast in Kabul airport. And the US had to send back 6,000 American soldiers just to safeguard and maintain security around the Kabul airport. That simply says that Pakistan would not do what it promises.
Right.
And this is that Taliban whose real spokesperson, real supporter is Islamabad. So I think now the future of US-Pakistan relationship is going to be reviewed very soon. The Congress and the White House and the State Department are on the same page. And the kind of assistance Pakistan was getting is not going to get any more. Until unless both Pakistan and Taliban stop supporting terrorism.
And the chances of that happening are almost zero, you would say?
Yes, very limited.
Right. So there is one more development that has happened in the last few days in the United States, and a report has leaked where a US general was supposedly informing China and told China that he would inform them if President Trump would ever decide to attack them. And what would this count as? Like, is it treason in terms of what he's actually done, or how would this play around with A, domestic polity in America, and B, what are its geopolitical implications?
Let me, at the outset, make it very clear that at the moment, very limited amount of information on this particular theme is out. The book is yet to be released. Only bits and pieces have come out, and some quotations have been discussed in American television and the newspapers about the phone call from General Milley, who was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in the United States, next to the American president. And the following things are there. Number one, it raises a question about the mental stability of the president. This kind of questions came up even during the election campaign when Trump was contesting the election.
Right.
And once he became the president, some of the steps he took, some of the statements he made, even against the NATO partners and the Asian alliance partners, many people thought that Trump is actually crazy. Right. Now, what happened on 6th of January in Washington, D.C. Was shocking to the whole world. The first great shock, of course, was Pearl Harbor attack by the Japanese. The second one was the 9/11 terrorist attack on the United States. And the third one is a kind of insurrection and kind of attack on the American Congress, the Capitol building, which is the symbol of democracy for the entire world, entire democratic world. Now, after that, 2 days later, when this general is talking to his Chinese counterpart, just to assure him that China should not go by the rhetoric, there is no war against China on the table because of Trump's role in that January 6th incident and the kind of rhetoric and statement that was coming out of him. There was a fear and apprehension in many countries, particularly in China, that Trump could even attack China. So in order to protect the interest of the United States, the general did that.
Right.
But there are many people who are saying that the commander-in-chief is the American president. How could he bypass him and talk to a potential adversary is the big question. Even on that, we do not know what the general has to say yet. We do not know the details of the thing. It will come in the near future. There are two important issues which are going to affect the future of politics in the near future in the United States. Number one, everybody knows that Trump is still very influential Republican leader even now. Number two, he is aspiring to contest the next presidential election. Number three, there are many Republican Party members who are really scared of him and his influence. And number four, this is the fact that the American general was trying to look at the United States above an American president who is an individual. In his understanding, the president could even start a nuclear war, which would be devastating for the whole globe. The president could order an attack on China and then create a situation where the American people would have no other option but to make him the president. And Joe Biden would not have become the president.
Right.
So because of all these things, he took that decision. It is going to be debated further. Details are not known yet, but these kind of questions are going to come up.
I mean, these developments seem like a scene from a war simulation game that we used to have in, Manipal University, because we used to play out these scenarios. But also, hypothetically speaking, if I may ask you for a small follow-up, what the US is pulling out of Afghanistan because there is a lot of public anger about the kind of money that is being spent in Afghanistan over the last 2 decades, and also the number of civilian casualties that has risen simultaneously. Now, in that sense, any plan for an attack on China seems almost impossible, isn't it, sir?
China today is the largest importer in the world, largest exporter in the world, number one banker to the United States. It is more influential economically around the globe. 100 plus countries find in China the number one trade partner. Having a war with that country, which is now technologically more advanced, militarily more powerful, and its naval expansion has taken place, so that recently, just about a few hours ago, American ships were there close to Alaska, right? And having a war between the US and China would be devastating for the whole globe, particularly because the Sino-US economic relationship is so interdependent. Both the countries find each other to be a very large trade partner. Any war would be devastating for their own economies. So this kind of war is not going to take place. However, a kind of cold confrontation is going on between the two. As the Chinese say, there cannot be two tigers in the same mountain. So they cannot settle with USA very happily. There will be competition, fierce competition, a lot of rhetorics, and of course, certain amount of political and other confrontation, but no war.
Right. Thank you for those comments, sir. And I know that we are short of time, but if I may ask you one last question. Prime Minister Modi is scheduled to visit the United States very soon for a Quad summit. Now, what will be the agenda on hand, and what do you foresee coming out of this summit?
Narendra Modi ji is playing a global role now. When people say India has become a global player, not a global power, but a global player, Modi's diplomacy is vindicating that, how India is playing an important role. Now, Quad is not a very new development. It began in 2007. It went into a dormant kind of situation for 10 years, revived in 2017. And from then on, slowly, we found a kind of online summit among the leaders in March. And now it is an in-person meeting. That means slowly, Quad is getting institutionalized, and it is getting attention at the highest level. And Prime Minister Modi is going to Washington. And his, of course, agenda is full of the plate. The whole plate is full of his agenda. Number one, he's going to have bilateral negotiations with all the Quad members on 23rd. On 24th, he's going to have one-on-one meeting with Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, and later the President of the United States, to be followed by the Quad summit. And then he's going to the United Nations. And what are the agenda? One is climate change. The other one is emerging technology. Third one is, of course, the vaccine development for the benefit of the people of the whole world, in a way, how to fight the pandemic and all that. And then build up stronger ties with all the Quad members. These are going to be on the agenda of the Prime Minister.
Right. We will wait and watch the outcomes of the meetings in the United States, and I hope you can join us to discuss that sometime soon too.
Sure, certainly.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking out your time. I know you've had a very busy day, and I hope we can have these conversations again and again to get some great insights from you.
Thank you so much, Saran. It was very nice talking to you, and your questions are quite penetrating.
Thank you so much. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.
And to all our viewers watching Citti Media, please do like, share, and subscribe. We will be bringing regular updates on geopolitical events around the world. Until then, this is your host, Citti, signing off.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.